Thank you so much.
Excellent. And thanks, Paul. Thanks to British Council again. We're back again. We're like a little boomerang, aren't we, Sarah?
Yes, for better or worse.
Yeah. And thanks for the lovely comments. So someone just wrote, it's going to be the best hour of their lives. So no pressure, Sarah. Okay. All right. Should we have a look at what we're going to do today?
Absolutely, yes. So Claire, we've got three items on our menu today. Here they are, but there are some words missing, hidden underneath the boxes. And I'm wondering if you, Claire, and our lovely participants can help me out with the missing word. So the first thing we're going to do is review the three hinges of, starts with a C. Any ideas? People are saying creativity. Lovely. Exactly.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Yes. Yeah. All right. The second thing that we're going to look at is understanding what a creative.
It's got to be task.
Lots of people are saying task. Thank you for that. And finally, we're going to understand the creative process involved in task. This begins with an A, a little tricky. It's when you change a task, you
adaptation.
Adaptation. Lovely. And of course, if you create it from scratch, task design. Yes, fantastic. Excellent. Thank you so much. Now, before we start, look at these lovely little emojis in the corner. All right, and think about where you are in relation to these objectives. Okay, so are you emoji number 1, where you feel like you don't really understand this yet? Are you emoji number 2? You're starting to understand, but you need some help. Do you feel like you're emoji number 3? I understand, I can do this by myself. Or do you think you're emoji number 4, where you can teach this to somebody else? And if you are number 4, we're giving the hosting rights to you, and you're going to take over the rest of the webinar. All right, we've got a lot of 2s, 3s. Great. Nobody wants to say 4 anymore. Great. Okay, so we're about. I'm starting to understand. Oh, I understand. All right. Oh, 5. We got a 5. We don't have an emoji for 5, Claire.
No, I think we should hand over the rights right now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And of course, at the end of the webinar, we'll get you to reflect again on how you feel in relation to these aims. So last month, if you did join us last month, we looked at this question: how do we develop creative thinkers? In other words, how can we get students thinking more creatively? And we identified 3 hinges or 3 aspects of creativity. Yeah. Claire, can you remember what they are?
I think I need some help.
All right, now in each of these 3 boxes, I've got 3 images. All right, and I'm going to reveal the image to you.
Yeah.
And I want you to say what you see.
Okay.
Participants, you can do the same if you want.
Okay, here's the first one. Ooh. Ooh.
What is it?
I see the Eltonics logo.
Okay.
Binoculars. It's a person looking, it's observing.
Yes, exactly. So last time we did look at how we can encourage our students to observe and explore the world around them. And some of our participants have said the same thing. Well done. Okay, what about the second one, Claire?
Ooh. Oh, there it is again. The happy
okay.
The happy it's a light bulb.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's thinking, but it's in
where is it?
Box. So there's some kind of constraint.
Yes, absolutely. So we also talked about last time how we can impose constraints. So instead of giving your students a blank slate to work from, we can give certain content, structural, linguistic constraints to encourage some kind of active problem solving. All right, we've got a final image.
This is too exciting.
I know. What could
it
be?
Ooh. Oh, sparkly, wonderful, imagination, wonder, curiosity.
Okay, that was a lot of words there.
Yeah. No, they all felt that really. I got got really into that one.
Yeah. So this one is about fostering a sense of wonder and encouraging curiosity. So we get our students to puzzle things out or consider questions which don't really have an answer. Last time we looked at thunks, which are questions that don't have a clear answer, maybe not even an answer at all. But Claire, what does all of this mean when it comes to task design?
I'm going to go to this book, right, that was first published in 2007 by Jane and David Willis, and it was called Doing Task-Based Teaching. This wasn't the start of task-based teaching because teachers were doing this already, but perhaps it was the first book that really tackled task-based teaching and learning, in that it looked at what is a task, different task types, and also how to implement that in that particular approach in the classroom. And it kind of turned everything upside down, quite literally as well, because it took traditional teaching of form into meaning and flipped it upside down, so there was focus on meaning and later form. So this is what they say in the book. They say many traditional methodologies begin by teaching grammatical forms and then go on to use those forms. The initial aim of TBT is to encourage learners to engage in meaning with the language resources they already have. This makes learners acutely aware of what they need to learn. They're given form-focused activities to help them develop that language, and that's after the task. So what does this mean? You know, meaning focused, form focused, what does that actually mean? Sarah?
Yeah.
Do you fancy playing a game?
With you always, yeah.
All right.
What's the game?
I think you might know it. So
right.
I'm going to ask you lots of questions and you have to respond, but you can't say yes or no. You know this one, right?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, we haven't started yet.
We haven't started. Okay.
Okay,
all right, I do.
We're starting now. Okay, so Sarah, have you got any pets?
I do.
Excellent.
I have
how many pets do you have?
I've got 4 pets.
4 pets.
I know.
Okay. And are they all cats?
They're not all cats.
Do you have a dog as well?
I have 3 cats and a dog.
Wonderful. What's your dog's name?
Bruno.
Oh, and do you love him the most?
Oh, Claire, you can't ask me something like that. All my animals are watching and logged in.
Yeah.
I love them equally.
Oh, do you?
I do. I do.
Okay, I think you've won that one. I think you've won. Well done. That was really good. Now, let's reflect on that though, Sarah. Were you kind of responding naturally to the conversation? Were you thinking about what you're going to say? What was it like?
I can say yes or no now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I wasn't responding. I had fun. I enjoyed the activity.
Yeah.
It made me laugh, but I felt like I couldn't get the words out of my mouth that I wanted to. I couldn't really tell you what I wanted to tell you because I was so stressed about whether I was using yes or no.
So you were thinking before you were speaking, yeah?
Definitely. Couldn't you see it?
Yeah, and that's exactly and that's exactly what our students do as well. When we ask them to use the target language, that's kind of what they're doing. Another thing to illustrate this is this. Do you recognize this kind of activity, Sarah?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
This is, low level. We've just taught I love, I like, I don't like. And we get our students to talk to their partner and find out what their partner likes or doesn't like. And they have to use the forms that they've practiced. So what we want them to do is engage in a communicative fluency activity, but we also want them to use the form, the target language that we've previously taught. Now, Willis and Willis say that students have two choices when carrying out this activity. Okay, the first choice is that they will focus on form to try and produce the correct grammar they've just learned. Therefore, they won't be able to focus on real life spontaneous communication. So if this happens, they're just getting practice in making sentences, basically. And for the teacher, this activity has failed to be meaning driven and communicative. Or the learner has this choice. They'll focus on meaning and ignore the fact that they're trying to focus on the target language of the lesson. And again, for the teacher, the activity has failed in the sense that students haven't incorporated the correct form in their spontaneous speaking. Willis and Willis say, there is certainly a place for focus on specified forms in the task-based approach, but form should be subordinate to meaning, and for this reason should come after rather than before the task. So in conclusion then, or before we go to conclusion, sorry, what is a task? This is what they say in the book, okay? The more confidently we can answer yes to the following questions, then the more task-like the activity. And we're going to focus a lot on this, aren't we, in this webinar, Sarah? So number one, we've got to ask ourselves, does the activity engage the learner's interest? 2, is there a primary focus on meaning? 3, is there an outcome or a problem to be solved? 4, is success judged in terms of the outcome? 5, is completion a priority? And 6, does the activity relate to real world activities? So in conclusion now, what makes a good task? A good task not only generates, what do you think that word is there, Sarah?
Oh, I need help, I think. Interest, great. This is interest, lovely. And
creates an acceptable degree of
challenge.
Yeah, great. But also generates opportunities for learners to experience and activate as much.
Something begin with L. Got
what?
learning, language.
Yes,
as much language as possible.
Activate as much language as possible. Super.
So we took a very well-known course book, which is aimed at B1 level students. And we opened up a page completely at random. This was the page. You can see it here on the left-hand side of the screen. And the activity here, you see the yellow arrow coming in. The activity is for the students to describe an object that was provided on the page before. So on the page before, there were pictures of different objects, right? And here they've got to describe the object to their partner. Their partner has to guess what the object is. And they've got to use this kind of language, right? It's made of, it's got, it's used for. So based on what Claire just told you, do you think that this is a task? Does it meet all of those criteria? Do you think yes or no? Got a few no's coming through. Okay, I think that's a resounding no. So let's have a look at what this activity has. What does it have going for it? So there is a problem-solving element. All right, so the students have to guess what their partner is describing. There is a clear outcome. So can the partner guess based on the student's description? But there isn't a focus on meaning. There isn't really a communicative goal here. It's just listening and guessing. So there's no meaningful interaction, and there isn't really a creative element either. So we often find in coursebooks, you might find the same, that there are some really great activities, but they aren't really tasks, and teachers have to adapt it a lot. Right? Have you felt the same, Claire, when you're teaching?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we set ourselves a little challenge, and we give ourselves a time limit. We work separately, and we try to adapt the activity, this activity in the book, into a more meaningful task, and importantly, into a creative task. Claire decided to adapt grouped into speaking tasks and I chose written tasks. So we're going to show you our adaptations now. Claire, do you want to start?
Yeah. So I started to think about this communication breakdown. That's why you would start to describe an object if you didn't know what that was. And of course, my head went straight to an alien. Sarah.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And okay, there's a little alien there. And I thought that we've got student A and student B. So let's say I'm student A. Okay, Sarah, I'm the friendly alien visiting Earth for the first time.
Yes, I can
And
believe it.
You're student B. Sometimes I've felt like that. You're a fearless human who wants to help the alien understand how these objects are used.
Okay.
All right. So under these boxes are objects. Okay, some of them from the actual course book as well. I'm going to choose one, for example, this one. And I'm the alien and I say, what's this?
Sorry, Claire. I didn't. Thanks. Okay. Well,
alien voice.
These are wellies, and you wear them on your feet. Your feet are down there, and you put them on your feet to stop your feet getting wet. So when it's rainy or when you've got to walk through a muddy field, you can wear these things. They're completely waterproof. They're really comfortable as well. And then we don't mind if they get dirty. You can clean them, hose them down afterwards. Some people even wear them as a fashion statement.
Nice. Okay, well, I totally know what wellies are now. Brilliant. And we can now, swap. So now you're the alien, I'm the fearless human. Here are some other examples of objects. We've got plastic bottles, mobile phone, we've got knife and fork, and a guitar as well. So what could we do after this? The students could reflect on how they describe the object and then add more description if they think they need to. And then this could be written or spoken as well. So let's check, Sarah. Is this a task? Did it engage this learner's interest?
Yes, because it's an engaging context.
Yeah, excellent. And is there a primary focus on meaning?
Absolutely. You didn't tell me what words I had to use. I was using my sort of bank of words to draw on there. Yeah.
And is there an outcome or problem to be solved?
Yeah, I had to make sure that you understood what the object was and how you use it. So you would tell me then if I was successful or not.
So success is judged in terms of outcome.
Yes.
Excellent. Completion a priority?
Yeah.
Or
definitely.
was I concerned about all the language you were using?
No, not at all. Language took a back seat there, but it was the communication and completion of the task that was more important.
And does this activity relate to real world activities? Not necessarily meeting an alien, although you never know.
Yes, I'm just thinking about, I'm learning Greek. I'm not very good at it. So people have to describe things to me. Or perhaps with a very young child, if you're describing to them how to use something or what something is for, definitely it has a real world application. Yeah.
Super. Okay.
So well done, Claire, for that.
Thank you. You've got your written one, haven't you?
Yeah, I came up with a creative writing task that was generated from the coursebook activity. So in the book, if you remember, the activity asked students to describe the objects and how they're used. And once again, exactly like you, I was thinking about, well, when might I do that in real life? What might the situation be? And how can I make this a kind of engaging situation as well? So Claire, I've got some photos here. What can you see in the first one?
Oh, Airbnb, the logo for Airbnb. Yeah.
Love it or loathe it. We've got Airbnb here, which is, it's where you rent out your apartment short-term or long-term to travelers, right? What do you see in this photo?
I guess she's handing the keys over to the guests, so they're going to stay in her beautiful apartment.
Right. So here's the situation.
Okay.
You've decided to make some money and use your home as an Airbnb. It's the first time you're doing this. The first guests are arriving. Everything is going really, really well. However, a few days later, you receive this message. It says, hello there, how are you? We're really enjoying our stay at your apartment so far. Thank you for being such a great host. However, we found some items and we aren't sure what they are for or how to use them. I have attached some photos of each item. Okay, we found the first item in photo 1 in the garden, the item in photo 2 in the kitchen, and the item in photo 3 stuck to the bathroom mirror. Could you let us know what they are and how we're supposed to use them, please? All right, Claire, so
Brilliant.
photo 1, the item in photo 1, it was found in the garden. What do you think it is?
It's just weird. I don't know. I'm thinking about my dogs. Maybe my dogs would be nice and warm in the garden.
Okay.
It's cold weather out there.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
The item in photo 2 was found in the kitchen.
I can see like a grater there, so maybe it's something for vegetables, like grating vegetables.
Okay,
but it
we
makes,
got some.
makes a lovely tune or something like that.
It makes a tune. Okay, and I love what our participants are saying as well, by the way. And the third one, remember, that was stuck to the bathroom mirror.
Random. Something, I don't know. I'm going towards babies, like changing babies' nappies in a certain way. That's how much I know about changing babies' nappies.
Okay. So let's have a look at these then. So my students chose an object here, right? And they decided to describe it. So the first object, Claire, how would you describe this?
It's squidgy and soft and warm.
Right. Okay. Now my students were doing this in groups and they chose an object and they were trying to describe it. Of course, I can throw them some vocabulary if needed. Okay. Yeah. What's it used for, Claire? You said to keep your dogs warm?
Yeah, to keep my dogs warm.
So how do you use it? How does your dog use it?
They put their head through the main hole and then out through the top hole, and somehow that keeps them nice and warm, and they can actually walk. They put their legs out the side as well.
Lovely. Yeah, I'd love to see it. All right.
I would love to see that too.
Yeah. So this is what my students came up with for the item found in the kitchen. They said,
hang on.
Yes. Okay. So they thought that this was used to sharpen your celery sticks and fight off enemies. All right.
I love it.
Okay. And then the third one. Yes. So this is something to protect yourself from any toothpaste accident.
From dribbling toothpaste on yourself.
Yeah, happens to the best of us. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, the reason that we're using objects that are unknown to the students or potentially unknown is because this is where the creativity comes in, right? They're trying to think of other ways in which an object can be used, an object that they're not sure about. If we gave them a regular object like a cup, then it's not such an engaging task. Yeah. Now, the writing task was actually to respond to this email. So it's important to know that the students had a degree of choice. They could choose the object and they could choose what it's used for. So this is what one group of students wrote. The small blue plastic jellyfish that you found in the kitchen is really sharp, so please be careful when you use it. It's used for sharpening celery, or any vegetable that you want, really. Whenever I cook a delicious meal, my brother always tries to steal the food off my plate. So these extra sharp sticks, celery sticks, are useful to stab his hand away. Used with caution, we ended up in hospital once because we had to get his finger sewn back on. All right. Now, my other group of students chose a different object. They chose the third one, and they say the long white piece of fabric can be used when you're brushing your teeth. I often find myself dribbling toothpaste on my best shirts before I go to work. Don't we all? So I attach the sticky end to the mirror, put the fabric over my head, head goes through the hole, and I can brush away without being scared of getting toothpaste everywhere.
I need one of those.
Okay. Yes, me too. So then we had a look at what these objects really are. So if you're desperate to know, this first one is an ostrich pillow used for napping. We've got a food spiralizer used for spiralizing vegetables. And then we've got a beard bib. If you do have a beard, you might want to get one of these. They're all available on Amazon. I'm not selling them personally, but
that ostrich pillow is something else.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course now they can sort of see whether their guesses matched with the original use of the item, and even decide if their new guesses is a better use than the original intention, right?
Yeah.
Now remember, for creativity to happen, we need to impose certain constraints. So in this task, the content constraints are that the students choose a specific object. And we can also, in writing, impose some structural constraints as well. In this case, they're writing an email and they're describing a process or giving instructions. So what could some follow-on tasks be? Let's take a look. So students could read the reply emails and decide which object was being described and whether the instructions were clear enough. Students could write a review for one of the objects, encouraging others to buy it or not. And students could find other uses for common objects in their classroom and write instructions on how to use it. And this all comes back to the idea of observing as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if this meets the task-based criteria that you've set for us, Claire. Does the activity engage the learner's interest?
Absolutely, right from the start. I was like, what is that? Yeah.
Okay, is there a primary focus on meaning rather than form?
Yeah, you didn't pre-teach anything. I could use what I wanted in that written task. Yeah.
And I'd feed the language in after. So actually all the language that we taught was done between the first draft and the second draft of that email response. Is there an outcome or problem to be solved?
Yeah, you've got to communicate to the guests, haven't you, and just make sure that they know what to use it for. Yes.
Yeah, so the success is based on whether that communication's clear or not. So they have to complete it, right? They have to complete the task. And does it relate to real world activities?
Yeah, I guess if you're selling something online and you have to and you have to describe what it's used for, and or even just reading that kind of text as well.
All right.
Well done.
That's a relief. Thanks, Claire. What have you got for us now?
Well, I started to think about really looking at this object and really observing it and kind of, what can we getting the most from describing this object? Yeah. So, okay, let's start with this picture. So, Sarah, what can you see?
I see a marketplace and it's very colourful and it's selling a lot of different things, clothes, bags.
Yeah, exactly. It sells loads of different things. And this is where my head went. It's got loads and loads of objects, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So I came up with this scenario, right? So we've got students in pairs again, and they both work in this market, but on different stalls, but next to each other. All right. So they compete all the time to get customers to buy their objects.
Right.
And, I'm going to give us a scenario. Okay. The scenario is to try and persuade the customer to buy our objects. Okay. You're going to be student A, and you've got a particular object. And I'm student B and I've got this particular object. Okay, you ready to see the object?
Claire, who are the customers?
The customers are the participants. They've got to decide who wins this one. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Which one are they going to buy?
Oh,
so, the customers are with us. They're in the chat. You've got your umbrella. What will you say, Sarah?
Well, you can't walk past the store without buying this umbrella because it's state of the art. Right, it is not only is it waterproof, it's huge. It could cover your whole family. It could cover your neighbors' families. It could, you know, protect your pets as well. It is huge. But the beautiful thing about it is that it folds up to be very compact. The wind never blows it inside out. It's really strong. It's made of biodegradable materials, rust proof. You don't get that rusty metal bit, you know. You know what? It comes in so many colors. I mean, I've got everything here. I've got mint, I've got red, I've got whatever you want, multicolored, you've got it. But also, it's only €2 and it will never break.
€2.
It's unbreakable. Claire, you can use it in the sun, in the rain. You could protect yourselves from enemies.
No, I'm sorry. €2. You can buy state-of-the-art belly boots.
Oh, come on.
Let's think about this. Why do you use an umbrella and boots? You use it because you don't want to get wet. All right. Now let's think. Umbrella goes over your head. Your feet get wet. Everything's wet. When you go home, it's really awkward to get in between your toes and dry your feet. And also, your feet are cold for ages. Take ages to warm up. So that's number one. Second one is they're made from like amazing rubber from the ancient rubber tree in Asia. Rubber trees in Asia, and basically it's branded. It's you can use them as fashion item. Shorts and wellies going to be the new thing this summer. Also, sure? They've got a little mechanism. You switch the switch at the back, and they walk for you. Lazy. Okay, amazing. Your umbrella is way too big. I mean, how would you fit that in your suitcase? No.
It folds. All right, let's leave it to the audience then. I mean, you haven't told us the price either, Claire, but there we go.
€2, same.
Okay, you're pricing me out. Okay, so let's leave it to the participants. Are you going for the boots or the... Oh,
I can't see that. Who's...
I think it's the boots. I think.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's the boots.
Oh, brilliant.
Kind of upset, but all right.
Well, you did win the other game, so that's
I did.
All right.
Okay.
So here are some other examples that I've given the students of football versus an inflatable beach ball. You can see that they're similar in use, so there's that competition there. We've got a rucksack compared to a suitcase, and we've got a light bulb and candles. What else can we do? There can be an adaptation here. So, you know, the customer were the participants in the webinar. Thank you for choosing me. Yes. But we could have students see as the customer, and then they reflect on who persuaded them the most and why, which is essentially giving peer feedback to student A and B. And of course, you can swap them. They're not always the customer. You swap them around so everybody gets a chance to play the game or to engage in the task. All right, here we go again. Did it engage your interest, Sarah?
Definitely. I really wanted to win.
Sorry. And is there a primary focus on meaning?
Absolutely, because I really had to sell my umbrella. I used all the phrases that I wanted to use, and I guess after the task would be when you gave specific phrases.
Absolutely.
After the students have completed the task.
And also do some nice feedback on emergent language as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there an outcome problem to be solved?
Yeah, we definitely want to sell our own things right from our stall.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously success is going to be judged there, whether we sold it or not. Completion is a priority. And does it relate to real world activities, do you think?
Well, yeah, even beyond selling something, it could be you and I trying to convince Paul to go to you wanted to take him to the cinema, I want us to go to the beach, you know, so it's persuading. So definitely has real life applications.
Absolutely. All right, excellent.
Okay, so
writing one, second one.
yeah, so this is my second written task that I came up with. So once again in the course book, the students are asked to describe an object, and here are the descriptions from the course book. It's rectangular, it's made of fabric, they're used for cleaning, and you can see the object from the course book there down the side. Now the students are answering a "what is it" question, and I thought, what if we flip that and ask the students about what it isn't?
Nice.
Okay, so if we flip the "it's rectangular and it's made of fabric," that would become "it's circular and it's made of metal." So what could that be, Claire?
Clock, coin.
Absolutely right. There's loads of choices. My students thought it could be a medal, for example. Yeah, they're used for cleaning. If we flip it, it becomes "they're used for making a mess." What could that be?
Crayons, paint.
Yes.
Yeah.
In your house, yeah, absolutely. And my students thought of this, which I absolutely love. It's a mop made of spaghetti.
Oh,
yeah, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. And then if we flip the last one, it's used for keeping insects away. It's used for attracting insects. What could that be now, Claire?
Half a moldy eaten melon.
Disgusting. My students came up with a jar of human sweat. Yeah, I'm very sorry to all for that image. Yeah. So now, instead of having just the objects that the course book have provided, we've got a huge range of objects that the students have generated just by flipping that description. Okay. So then I thought, when my students need to write about an object, and it's very much like your market stall activity, I thought about when you've got to sell an object online, right? And you write an advert to sell that object. So I asked my students to sell one of the objects, and it was good to give them a choice, because we had, for example, the medal, which is quite straightforward, kind of more usual object to sell. And then we had the weird and wonderful ones, which would be harder to sell, like the spaghetti mop and the jar of sweat, right? So students have got a choice, and it's kind of differentiated in that way. So I gave these prompts to my students, and they wrote some ideas. Okay, so this is about the spaghetti mop.
Nice.
Okay, and then I asked them to write an advert to sell their object. All right, and here is what my student came up with. So Artemis says, spaghetti mop for sale, get it before someone else does. Are you sick and tired of your parents or guardians yelling at you to finish all of your dinner and to clean up your room? Now you can combine the two tasks with the spaghetti mop, using state-of-the-art soggy spaghetti dipped in delicious tomato sauce. Rub that mop across the floors for a beautiful red marble effect. It also gives your home a very nice aroma and puts that disgusting dish of spaghetti that your older brother made to good use. Nothing goes to waste and everyone's happy. It has an adjustable handle, which is made from metal, and it's got adjustable spaghetti ends, soggy or al dente, depending on the effect that you want. And this beautiful tool is yours for the price of only $5.22. Or it can be exchanged for some Pokemon cards. All right. And then Artemis has created her little fake email address at the bottom. All right. So I mean, here again, the students have created this, and then in the redrafting stages is where we give feedback on the language and so on, okay? And this was just one advert of many. So what could some follow-on tasks be for this? Students could read all of the adverts and write an email of interest for the object that they most want to buy, which makes the task meaningful, communicative. They could give their advert to a partner and they give feedback on how persuasive it is. So there's reflection. They could actually make their own version of the object to sell on a market stall, like your market stall, Claire, in a speaking activity. So this allows them to do a bit of artwork and also practice another skill, or they could act out a TV advert selling that particular product. So let's see if it meets the criteria, Claire.
Yeah.
Does it engage the learner's interest? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Is there a primary focus on meaning rather than form?
Again, yes.
Okay. Problem to be solved.
Yeah, you've got to persuade the reader to buy your
Okay.
object. Yep.
So then if your object is bought, then that's the success criteria, right? And of course, you've got to complete a whole text to sell this. Would you do this in real life in some way?
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you? Sort of like online adverts, and
Facebook posts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then.
I think it's a great task, Sarah. Again,
thanks.
Superlative.
Thank you.
Okay, now we started to look backwards after we designed these tasks. We started to walk backwards and think about what were the steps we went through to actually design these tasks when we're looking at this course book from that stage to the actual task itself. What happened in our brains? We're going to have a little look into our brains, Sarah, which is scary. So, and amazingly, these steps were almost the same, weren't they? We almost did exactly the same thing. But for sure, number one was this one. When would I use this language myself? So you're starting to think a bit about the situation, who, where, why, what's happening. Then how can we put our students in this situation? And this can be with an element of fun and engagement, yeah? So the alien, for example. Then we've got, how can I get my students exchanging information with each other? So we're now focusing on, okay, what's the communication between them? How are they going to communicate? Then, is there a problem-solving element? If not, what constraints can be included? So at this stage, we're now started moving into sort of the more creative task design. Equally, is there anything missing in the book that we could include? So you did that, didn't you, Sarah?
Yeah, I thought about what objects weren't there that could be included.
And also you did this, you flipped the sentences with your objects as well. Is there anything that can be flipped or changed? And finally, how can we get students reflecting on the task outcome? These are the steps in creative task design that we took when we designed the particular tasks we've showcased today.
Yeah. So we've looked so far at how to create a task which is meaning-driven, meaningful and interactive, based on perhaps a course book activity that you want to use in the classroom. But we also need to think about what makes a task creative. All right. We've already discussed how encouraging students to observe, like in the alien or the Airbnb tasks, fosters creativity. We've applied some constraints, right? For example, we gave students particular objects to sell in the market stall activity, or certain objects to find a use for in the Airbnb activity. And there were also constraints in terms of structure in the writing tasks, you know, where they had to write instructions or persuade and so on. And we can also encourage sense of wonder by getting the students to reimagine how these objects were used or could be used, right? So already we've got the elements of creativity there, but that's not the end of the story, because there are in fact 4 types of creativity tasks. Okay, and we can look at these in terms of type of problem. So for each problem that we give to the students, is it closed in that there's only one solution possible that the students can come up with, or is it open in that many solution paths are possible to them? There's more than one. We can also look at their reason for engaging with the task. So is it external in that the teacher or the materials provide the problem, okay? Or is it internal, where the students have some choice over the problem, or that they create the problem themselves? So let's see what this looks like. The first one, the teacher provides the problem, the teacher imposes constraints, and there's one possible solution. In the second one, the teacher provides the problem, provides the constraints, but several solutions are possible, and students reflect on the solution that they provide and that of their peers as well. The third one.
Sorry, Sarah, that's me.
Okay. The teacher provides different problems and the students choose one problem to solve and they decide on a solution to the problem. There's only usually one solution available. And finally, students provide a problem or a question that they want to answer, and they work through solutions and answers in their own way, and then reflect on whether they've solved the problem or not. Okay, let's bring this to life a little bit. All right, so Claire, I'm going to show you 4 tasks that we might use in the classroom. I want you to tell me where they go. So the first one, students are given thunks. We looked at this in the first webinar, questions that don't really have an obvious answer, or they write their own thunk. They put these in the middle of the desk and choose the one that they want to solve. They discuss how they might go about answering the question. Where would you put it?
I think this definitely goes here because it's so student driven.
Yeah.
In every way, isn't it?
Yeah, the student provides the problem. There are many different solutions available. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's go for the next one. So here, students are given different street art examples. Each artwork relates to a different issue, for example, poverty, discrimination, climate, animal rights. They choose a topic they want to explore, find other street art that matches this topic, and the solution is that they organize a gallery, like an exhibition of sorts. Where would that go?
I think here, is that right? So they've got an element of choice, but there's only one solution. There's only one gallery event that they...
Exactly. They choose the problem and then the solution is one. All right. This one, students create an alibi for a crime they're accused of committing. The details of the crime is provided by the teacher, but the alibi is created by the student individually or in groups. And the rest of the class decide on the most plausible alibi and whether the students are guilty or not.
Is that here?
Okay. Why did you put it there, Claire?
There's an alibi. The teacher gives the problem, and there are different solutions to that problem.
Yeah, the students can come up with any alibi they want to this one problem provided by the teacher. And then finally, we know where the last one goes. So students decide on the best way to get to a theme park. They compare different routes and transportation. They're given a time restriction, a budget, and must reach a final decision. There's just one option here. So the teacher provides the problem and there's just one solution to it. Okay.
Yeah, so that reminds me of the alien activity.
Good.
So I provided the solution, and there's only really one way to describe that object. So you can use different language, but it's that object. Right? Exactly
right. Yeah. Now, the question is, should we be using all 4 types of creative task in our classroom? And in an ideal world, we would reflect on our task design and see which of the 4 it matches with. But you'll notice that we didn't showcase the bottom right, did we?
No. Well, it's kind of impossible to do, isn't it? Because it's all student driven, so it's impossible to do in this kind of webinar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and of course, this could work in certain contexts very well, but we'd have to consider certain limitations like age. So if we're dealing with very young learners, they might not be able to come up with a problem or questions to be solved. In some cultures, this might not be appropriate either. So the bottom right is quite hard to achieve, but it certainly is possible. But it's always useful to reflect on whether you're providing a range of these creative tasks. And some questions that you can ask yourself are the following: how many solutions are possible? One or many? Who's provided the problem? You or the students? How much decision-making power is given to the students? Okay, so do they get an element of choice at all?
Really useful. Okay, let's look at what we've looked at today then. So today we've reviewed the 3 hinges of creativity, understood what a creative task is, and understood the creative process involved in task adaptation and design. Now, at the beginning of this session, we got you to look at the emojis and place yourself as 1, 2, 3, or 4. Can you do the same now? And Sarah, let me know.
I've got a 4.
Oh, brilliant.
Confident 3 or 4. Oh, brilliant. Lots
Excellent.
of 4s going on. 3s and 4s. 2 to 3.
Did the 5 get to 6, do you think?
I don't know. I don't see a 6. Yeah, some 3s there. Great.
Excellent.
Lovely.
Okay, so we're
6. We got a 6.
Yeah,
we got a 6. There we go. Off the scale.
Excellent. So basically we've moved up the scale a little bit there as well, haven't we? That's great. Okay, if you're interested in our references, here they are. These are the ones we used in our session today. And of course, you can contact us on eltonics.com. And that's from us. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Claire. And thank you, Sarah. I'd like a beard bib, please.
I was going to mention you.
I think I need one so that I don't get complaints and it goes all over the bathroom floor.
We'll order one for you. Send it your way.
Brilliant.
I definitely want that ostrich pillow.
Yes, that was amazing. I can't. But how do you
place your orders here?
It covers your eyes, though, doesn't it? So you can't. As it's meant to make you sort of sleep. Is that the idea? I couldn't.
I guess. I mean, Paul, I've never used one.
Okay. All right. I might investigate.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that too. Yeah.
I'm going to trade in my guitar for for an ostrich head thing. Anyway, got a couple of minutes questions. It could probably go to 5 unless Claire, Sarah, you need to rush off.
Go for it.
No, go for it.
Yeah, okay, so we've got 5 minutes. Questions. This is from Fernando. What are some of the factors we need to be aware of which might hinder creative thinking? That's yeah, I know that's quite a tricky one to just throw at you like that, wasn't it? I apologize.
You should. The first thing that comes to mind is not to do with language levels, to do with confidence and how we perceive creativity. So I always find that if I sort of come at my students and say we're going to do something creative, certain blocks come up in terms of how students feel about their creative ability, and they sometimes don't know what being creative is. It's not just creating something from scratch or a song or a piece of art. It could be problem solving as well, like we explored in the first webinar. So I think confidence is one way to go about it, and then to get the students to reflect on the fact that that was creative thinking and the process behind it. What would you say, Claire, apart from confidence?
Yeah, I think like last week we were saying, like I was saying to you, like be creative, like putting that pressure on students to be creative, I think can hinder the process. I mean, I'm thinking practically in the classroom, you just got to be really super clear when you're setting up as well, and what's expected of the students, and giving them a bit of choice instead of demanding too much from them or not demanding enough. Yeah.
And allow for different, sorry, Claire, allow for different outcomes as well. So not everybody's going to produce the same thing or react to the same prompt in the same way. So being flexible in terms of, what your students are are doing with that task might be really different.
And allowing that process to happen, not expecting certain language to come through too much.
Yeah,
letting the students deliver what language bank they have.
There was sort of a reason for asking that question, and it wasn't just to try and catch you out and annoy you. It was because there were a couple of other questions around, and I think this sort of comes up sort of time and again, where people are perhaps working in contexts where it's very much here's the curriculum, here's the test, teach the test, don't focus on anything outside of that. So I mean, so there's the question, factors might hinder creative thinking. I suppose the sort of follow-up is factors that might affect how teachers' ability or opportunities, I suppose, to use creativity
in their context.
Yeah, I guess so.
There are certain, I guess, you know, when you're teaching an exam class, or if you've been given a really rigid sort of syllabus to follow, then that can be pretty frustrating if you do want to add in these more creative aspects if your course book doesn't allow it. But you can adapt. So if just thinking back to the first webinar we did where we showed an exam style task, where my students had to write, I think it was a letter of complaint, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But then you change what they write the letter of complaint about and why, and it doesn't quite match up. So they've got to try and sort of put that together, and that kind of problem solving is creative in itself. So there are ways that we can adapt these things, and it'll be what we're exploring in our next webinar in the series as well. Also is how to further adapt.
I think,
what
like,
would you say, Claire?
I'm just thinking, like, in that context, you're not going to be like super creative superwoman and superman every day in your classes. It's like putting that element in when you can, and exploring that area. And as you say, you can have exam focused tasks with an element of creativity. And even if you just think of the simple thing of a problem to solve, that's creative thought.
Yeah.
Already, yeah.
And you know, in my most desperate of times with my students, and really being uninspired by the materials I was teaching a proficiency class. I asked the students, how can we make this a bit better? Let's look at this, and what can we do? And you know, the students will give you a ton of ideas as well, whether they're younger learners or adults. You know, what do we want to take from this, and what can we do with it? So asking your students as well, what they like, what they've enjoyed.
Yeah. Okay. This is an interesting one, and I think, I mean, my sort of thinking is that task-based learning and the ideas that you've kind of put forward today answer this question, because it's about multi-level classes, and I don't know, you can either agree or disagree, or just tell me to be quiet and answer the question. But my sort of thinking with multi-level classes and the idea of using creativity is it's catering very much to that context where you do have students with different levels, and they do what they can to the best of their ability. And obviously, you know, with task-based learning, I guess it's a question of what language have you got that you can use, and then let's look at that and see where where there were some errors, where you use good language and improve that. So with all the ideas, I don't know, for me it seems like they would work well with multi-level groups, but I just sort of wondered if you had a different opinion or a more educated one.
I've got exactly the same opinion as you, yeah. And I think, you know, with task-based learning, that's the beauty of task-based learning, is that it's the outcome is what you're looking at. It's and how students get there is going to be very different according to their level, etc., or even how they're feeling that day, right? Might not be having a great day, not engaged. What else was I going to say? I can't remember. I can remember. Getting old. I don't know if you realise that, especially in Sarah's task, there was an element of choice. And we talked about this in the very first webinar we did with you, that challenge and cognition in the classroom, giving students a choice of what they take on, the level of challenge they take on.
Yeah, and the output, just to comment on the writing task, was very different per student. So some had written a full, several paragraphs, and some had written a very succinct one paragraph, but it completed the task. And then you can feed back, how could you expand this, or what words did you need, or phrases that you need. So yeah, by focusing on the meaning rather than the language, I think you can help more students achieve. But it takes some learner training as well, because if they're used to really form focused classes, they've got to get used to flipping it. In some contexts, you've kind of got to gradually introduce this and keep telling your students why you're doing it and why it's important.
Yeah, it's step by step, isn't it? It's kind of just Okay, brilliant. I think we're going to have to leave it there. There are a few more questions. I'm just going to, hang on, I haven't finished. There are a few questions I'll just answer. PowerPoint presentation, yes, that will be available. Well, it's a PDF of the slides that Claire and Sarah have used. That will be available on the website tomorrow or later today. As I said, you will get links to this. I've been putting them in the chat, but you will get links to the certificates and everything. And the recording will be available also probably later today. So look out for that. Look out for the email for that tomorrow. Or if you can't wait, then go to the survey, the survey should open up on your device as soon as this webinar finishes, so you can give your wonderful feedback and all of that. And so just to confirm, the second part of this is going to be the 30th of June. So just over a month's time. So make sure you get in early and register for the second part of this webinar with Claire and Sarah. I've also put links into the last two webinars that they've done because they were talking about those. So you can get those, but I will add links to those in the email that you'll get tomorrow as well. So it's all good. Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks to everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your days, and thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully see you in just over a month's time for the next one.
Enjoy
Take care.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.